A phone call from the WPSL? Alright, I'll pick it up.
Hello, 'tis I. You would not believe how busy life has been, but apparently Canada Women's Soccer has been busier, which is why I, in the middle of exam season, am making a video for you. This is all about the WPSL, which has been getting everyone talking, and how it is creating a professional league in Canada. I will give you a couple of the facts from their posts. I will give you some of the opinions from the players, from the media around Canada, and then I will give you my opinion, which you probably don't care about, so I guess you can log out at that point. But, I mean, I have a couple insightful things. So let's get down to it. So I've actually been following the Twitter account for this league for months. They created an account back in the summer, and they just added a profile and someone tweeted it, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, I'll follow it in case. So then I kept seeing all the previews about announcement on December 7th, like December 7th is like the big day. When December 7th came around, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a video saying, we've answered the call, and they promote the Canadian women's national team members, saying that we have a league in Canada being created, and we'll get to it in a minute, but Steph Labbé is like, yeah, they don't say professional for a reason, because they're not addressing professional. So there are definitely pros and cons with their media distribution, but to say we're answering the call and to hype up that, yeah, we're getting a league and making people think it's professional was not maybe the best first step. But it is interesting that they've mentioned that there are clubs across the country that are getting a team. So they've talked to a bunch of clubs already, and there's a team apparently in Toronto, which all UGTA people know that means like Woodbridge, or not actually Toronto because there's no Toronto clubs really. And then we have Vancouver, and in Quebec, and Montreal, and out in Alberta as well, Calgary. Hopefully out east they get an opportunity to shine too if this league does delve into something further. But clubs are now being told to communicate with them. So the ultimate goal from this league is that it seems to be semi-professional at this point. They haven't said how many months they'll be playing, but based on the structure in the US, it's only really a summer league, often for university players. And Steph was quick to point out that we have many of those structures already set up with semi-professional leagues in Canada, such as LeagueOne in BC and in Ontario, more established in Ontario because that's where I play. And then also the PLSQ in Quebec, and then we have in Alberta 2 teams that are playing in US divisions, and actually they've shown some success in the last couple of years. I got to broadcast for the CBC U Sports games. Humble brag, that's why I was gone in November and had no time for you guys. I apologize. But I got to see some of the amazing talent that we have across Canada, and in Alberta they had several players who were impactful, who were on McEwen, who won, and Trinity Western, who was the runner-up. So shows that we do have this talent across the league, shows that we already have these establishments and we're looking for that next level. But this league, all the promising is that in 2 to 5 years we'll have a professional league. It's exciting. We've never had anyone actually take that step. So I think it's really promising. You could see from the media reaction, everyone was so excited for it, but there's a lot of catches. Within their description, they say, okay, well, the money will first go to the league and to the clubs, and then it'll go to the players after a while. But how do you get good players, and how do you make money unless you invest in the players? So that's all you really need to know for facts, I would say. Then we get into Steph's opinion, which I kind of talked about briefly, and some other players in the media. Sync seemed to promote it at first. She retweeted it and was like, what other areas? And then kind of realized, wait, no, this isn't what we thought it was. And then Steph was opposing it right from the get-go. She's like, she knew the structure that was in place in the US and said, we don't want that kind of league. Like, it's a league a tier below the NWSL. And I like that she has high standards and expects that we don't settle. Because I was like, oh, anything is good, but I like that these national team players have high expectations and they know what they deserve. And so it was insightful to hear what they were saying versus someone who plays for one of the semi-professional leagues in League One already, and I'm happy where I am. But I know there's so many players gunning to play at a professional level across the globe. My teammates traveling, people I played against in OUA, traveling to Europe to get that opportunity when we can have it here. So Steph made good points that, you know, you can't just expect that you develop a 3-month thing and with no money and people, talented players, are going to be like, yeah, that's what I want to do. It's a good step. I think it could be a good D2 league, but she's saying it's not the D1, so it's in fact not answering the call that players have been looking for. To be honest, what I think she's most pissed about, and what a lot of us are pissed about, is like answering the call. No, it's not answering the call of a professional league. And then Steph was interesting to mention that it's not sanctioned by Canada Soccer, and I noticed that when it was promoted, I was like, wait, why is Canada Soccer not retweeting it? Because they do announce stuff with the CPL all the time, and I knew that there were players in the background working to develop a league, so I kind of clicked that, maybe this isn't developed by Canada, but it does seem to be its own separate Canadian base, but it is the baby of the, I don't know if the baby is the correct term, but it is associated with the WPSL in America. It was actually a really good interview on CBC, so you should check it out. It was about 6 minutes long from Steph, and she had a couple really good points. The questions were very point specific, and they asked if, well, should it be based off the CPL? Is that how the women's league grows? And no. I think it's become clear, especially in the last couple months, that if we want a Canadian women's league, it can't be the same as the CPL. It can't be the same as the NWSL. These are structures that often do not allow the players any type of privilege or control, and there's a lot of flaws within the system. And so now the focus is, okay, one, how do we build a league? Like, I think we can see where the steps and the structures are, and then two, to get these investments, and that's what a lot of players are working towards. I'm not going to name names, but I know some behind the scenes that seem to be pulling some strings, and I think if you kept an eye on their social media, you would notice as well. But yeah, what you can take away from this is these players do deserve more. They deserve respect. They want a gold medal. And I think even sometimes you see the sexism within our own country, which is kind of disappointing. Now that the men's team is getting good, and I'm very excited. I saw one of the games in the fall. I'm hoping to go to their one in January, close to home. And I want to support the men's and women's team, but I think some of the new fans of the men's team that didn't really seem to exist before need to understand that you need to support both sides. And overall, what's been talked about is that one of the reasons John Herdman switched to the other team was so that the men's team could get more success and they could get more funding to go to the program overall on the men's and women's side, because even though the women's team has been successful, they're not getting that money. And yes, that's based off the sexist structures that are in FIFA and UEFA, but it's kind of rushing down into the fans in Canada too. So I hope you take a moment to kind of recognize when you're saying facts like such as Jonathan David and Alfonso Daisy being the first players to make it to the or past the qualifying round of the Champions League, that no, there are so many Canadian women's players have been doing that. You have to be specific and you have to acknowledge that. So that's on a little side, but it's a drop of wisdom that if we want to develop this league, we need to make sure that we're developing equity across the country. We're giving our players respect. They've been working so hard and deserve it. And so I'm going to drop my opinion in here now. I'm getting very into it, as you can see by my hand motions. So I'll take a second, recollect, and then display my wisdom. I do think it was very disappointing to have that advertisement as answering the call and getting my hopes up and using the national team members. I was like, oh my god, it's happening, like, look out, and it not being that expectation. And I think that Andy and Oliver on One Soccer also articulated that very well, that there are silver linings in this. There are potential pros to the fact that there is a league developing. You can get more players opportunities, especially in areas where they don't have their own semi-professional league set up, such as in Alberta. I saw a lot of people from Alberta tweeting very positively to these announcements. And then perhaps in the Maritimes, I feel bad. They've been really forgotten in all this. And like I said, when I was watching U Sports, like Cape Breton, all their players are from Nova Scotia, and they're all very talented in keeping up with the players from Ontario, from Alberta, from BC from Quebec, so I think they need to be in Canada too. And one interesting fact from the WPSL structure in Canada is they would set it up so that all the East teams would play each other and then all West teams would play each other, kind of go through a structure and then have finals, so it would make it a bit more financially feasible, because that would be similar to the youth sports setup where BC and Alberta teams usually play each other, and then you would go to the Ontario, Quebec areas, kind of like play each other, and then you would go to nationals. So financially, it seems more feasible that way than trying to go all the way across the country flying all the time. But I mean, the media, the discrepancy between the league and our expectations was the biggest con. Yeah, and I guess for me, I mean, there are good things. I think everyone's saying, well, they're not doing what we're wanting, but at the same time, it's like, okay, no one's doing anything, so what's going on? Like, do we have to wait forever for this? Like, it's nice that someone is taking initiative. I thought that was really inspirational, but I think Steph made a good point when she was talking about you need to build a strong foundation, a strong base. Like, if you just build a league off of something you're not happy with, if it's not that strong base, and it's not going to last, it's not going to survive, the media is not going to appreciate it, the players aren't going to develop. So I think you saw that with a couple of failed attempts in the US back in the 2000s, and so I think that's why those players are the best for sources of information. Brief shout out to Karina LeBlanc and Rhiannon Wilkinson to have gotten high positions in Portland, but they are those players that have seen what's gone wrong in the NWSL and leagues before that. And so if we can develop a league, we have so many talented people to draw from, which is really insightful too. But I think, yeah, overall, maybe not the expectation we needed. Maybe it is a good step with a D2 league, and it helps more across country challenges, because LeagueOne generally sticks to LeagueOne and BC teams stick to the BC teams. So I think it's kind of encouraging that, but it's not what we want for that D1 level. So yeah, I'd say let it go to D2. Like, let's see what happens, and hopefully in the meantime there's other players, like as mentioned, working in that background to develop this D1 professional league that we want and need. I'm going to leave you with 2 questions to research on your own, because I tried to research it, and I mean, they haven't really announced too much. They've been pretty vague with their announcements. Is one, so where is the money going? It says it's going back to the clubs and to the league, but like, do you want to invest in the players? Like, I think some research around that would be interesting. Like, who is the league? It says it's Canada, but who are the owners? Who are the investors? Like, who are the people? Are they Canadian women? Are they all American men? Like, who are taking advantage of this untapped market? And also, like, can they just tell us how many months the league is? Like, that would be appreciated, because when Steph was saying these things, like, she was saying it before they announced it, like, everyone was making assumptions off the WPSL and how it is in America, because it's those few months, but who knows, maybe they have plans to make it those 7 months that everyone wants to see. So that would be a nice little fact too. Alright, I gotta go do exams, so I think that's it from me today. I could tell you all about what I've been up to in the last 2 months, like I said, with the Canadian broadcast. That was a whole week, and I was very grateful to be doing color commentating with CBC on the U Sports Soccer, so you can always ask me questions about that. I'm hoping you guys all have a happy holidays. I probably will not drop another video before the new year, maybe end of year recap, but hoping you all enjoy this. And sorry it was a little long, but I think it's, I've had a YouTube channel for a year talking about women's professional soccer in Canada, and now we have a potential for women's professional soccer in Canada, so I think it deserves to be a little on the longer side, but I appreciate you all listening.